My fellow hobbyists, it's an unfortunate truth that the world keeps getting more expensive. Truth. Mm-hmm. Prices for food, materials, and transportation have been trending upward for a few years now, and Warhammer isn't immune to that trend. This means that from the 10th of June, we'll be increasing some prices in our Warhammer stores and on warhammer.com. The price changes for individual products will vary, but in most countries, the average change will be between 3 and 5%. I bet you there's not going to be many 3% ones. As an example of what you could expect, a squad of Necrons goes up $2 from 50 to 52, and blah, blah, blah. The prices of some of our products aren't changing, such as paint pots and paint sets, White Dwarf, and Black Library books.
Also, if you're in a region, it goes up like 18% or something.
We're not going to read that part.
It's that oil money.
We understand that no one likes a price rise, Jay, and we've done our best to keep prices down. They've done their best. We're giving you a heads up now so that you have plenty of time to take advantage of current prices. Yeah. And you're getting like a month's notice here. Yeah.
I mean,
there's a little asterisk at the bottom here. In Sweden and Norway, the average price change will be between 8% and 14%.
Yeah.
So that's a big jump.
Yeah.
All right. Hey guys, welcome to another Lords of War Games and Hobbies video. I'm Chris, this is Jay. We do these weekly chats about pertinent hobby topics in the industry. And we obviously run a hobby shop. We've been doing so for about a decade and been in the industry for a lot longer. Mm-hmm. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, what are your first thoughts when you see that? Other than like, oh yeah, this happens every year.
Yeah, it does happen every year. It always happens. I don't know. You have two thoughts. One of them is the price increase thing isn't unique to Games Workshop, so I guess I would like to kind of lay that out so that for all of you, ragers and annoyed people or frustrated people that are like, or whatever. What's the new thing? Everyone's like, oh, BlackRock is involved or whatever.
BlackRock, yeah.
They're the reason the price increase. That it's across the miniature industry. It doesn't really matter if you're Games Workshop or Corpus Belli or Atomic Mass or whatever. It's all. It's funny though. In the non-GW cases, we basically don't get any notice. We just order some product, and then when it arrives,
it's just higher. Yeah.
You look at your invoice, and it's just $6 more for some reason.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's it.
No press release.
No press release. Nothing. Yeah. So. Especially if you've been like a consumer of let's say like Infinity or Corpus Belli in the last 2-3 years, like basically since the pandemic, it's stuff's gone up massively. Maybe it's the production runs or the price of metal or whatever.
It's definitely I
don't know what's gone to happen there, but it kind of is. So that's one thing. It's kind of annoying, but everything's gone up. So I would say that part of. Although I don't necessarily like Games Workshop comparing it to other things going on, like food.
Yeah, there's almost like
they're trying to put it in the same bucket. I don't think it is
a matter of fact. Like this has to happen, sort of tone to it.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I think it's. I give any company credit. Like it is hard to phrase anything today.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get ahead and trying to spin your own news. Sometimes I wonder, could you rewrite that email in a way that doesn't sound terrible? It's like, I don't know. I don't know if I could. What's the Billy Bean thing where you're talking about the other week? It was like from Moneyball or whatever. You bring people into the office, you sit them down and say, you've been traded to the Pirates. You hand them the folder.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Right. Yeah.
say as little as possible.
No, they probably could have just said
prices are going up.
Everything. Yeah. Production's gone up. Everything costs more, so we have to raise the price.
Maybe that's better.
Maybe, but I feel like they've said that so many times.
Yeah.
They could probably just say heads up, prices going up, and that would be it. Maybe they don't even have to write anything else.
Heads up.
I don't know.
And I mean, it happens at this time every year. For those of you that don't know, their year end is at the end of May, so they have their corporate year end. They do a big inventory. They close their warehouse down. They do all that stuff.
Yes.
And so when they reopen after, all the prices are up, right? And I have kind of checked with a few people I know in the industry. The staff are getting a raise.
Whoa,
which is cool. Yeah, I know, right? So that is cool.
Answer some of your questions.
Yeah, so I think that's awesome.
Probably not a big one, but it's something.
No, it's probably not 5%. Let's be honest, right? It's probably not 5%. But a lot of
wondered why Chris and I don't work for Games Workshop anymore.
a lot of companies are increasing prices but not putting wages up. So that's something. And I mean, when you look at decisions like this, whether they're Games Workshop or some other company, ultimately what the company is doing as a publicly traded company, they are preserving their margins.
Yeah.
So these decisions are ultimately set up to preserve the margins. So they see through any of these cost increases or whatever, cost of doing business, a little erosion in their margin. And in order to sort of like appease shareholders or like meet the expectations of the shareholders, they have to do these increases so that they can maintain those margins that they're used to getting.
Yeah. And you see, and unfortunately, it's not really, there's not an equality across their product ranges. They kind of know, or at least I suspect they know, that they just cannot or will not be able to charge, let's say, like an average Blood Bowl team is $60 or something. And they know the customer base for that is generally smaller, a little more price sensitive. They just want to buy like a small thing, and they remember teams being cheap. All this stuff is I'll be honest, not new people aren't even don't even know what Blood Bowl exists.
They don't look at Blood Bowl usually.
Now, for that, to Chris's point, to have the average margin be equal across all the product ranges, then they look at they're like, well, 40K is our biggest boomist game, so we can charge $75 or whatever 3 eradicators is or something, or heavy intercessors, and people will buy them, or whatever, or Lars custodes or whatever.
So a lot of the time you'll see, to Jay's point, the price of those go up like a larger percentage, right? That's what you're saying.
40K will always be their most expensive line, and then you will then see in kind of a descending order, like AOS is like a tad cheaper, and then it's like Horus Heresy and the specialist games are generally price per mini or per box. Is the cheapest, although I can put those in quotes, cheap or whatever. But
better value for money, I guess you could say.
And that's how they kind of decide some of these things. That's just kind of the margin thing is the main factor for why they want it to be a certain thing. They're just decided we need to make, I don't know, whatever it is, 40, 50, 60%, whatever it is per.
Ultimately, that's what across the line, averaging out all their products, they have a number in mind that they need to make every year, and anytime that starts to shrink, they have to do this. And in recent years, they've had to do it every year. Like I can't remember the last time there was a pause. Like it's been a few years. It's definitely been a few years in a row.
Yeah, I'm sure that some of this is tied to some other kind of things. Maybe switching to such a if we look at a 10-year time span or 5 or 10-year time span, is like maybe switching to like such a new release driven model requires more development, more more R&D. You need more people making, designing things, writing rules, creating things.
For sure.
Production of those things, which means making more molds, etc., rather than it being on the restock model. So they probably are harnessing less sales from existing models and mostly from new releases. Well, new releases always cost more than old stuff.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I think there's a dual nature to their price increases. There's the one they announce every year, and then there's the hidden one that is in every new release that you get throughout the year, where you see the creeping prices start to go up a little bit. That's the easiest way
to introduce a price increase without quietly, is because it's. We made a new Tau Commander, and the old one was $70, and this one's $80 or whatever.
He's new,
but he's new, and he has new bits in him,
and you can usually where you can get away with it is the features in the kit are just like better. So, or maybe you're getting an extra sprue or something like that. So there's almost like this perceived, like this is actually I'm getting more here. But ultimately, like they are increasing the price on something that was $70 before.
Right? So usually the end of year or whatever this price increase, it's more to do with bringing up everything else in line, because they might decide, even though they're not new kits anymore, but they're equivalent or whatever, or they decide they made a new rubric of like what a leader should cost and what basic troops should cost. I don't know, things like that. They have various like charts and things. Now, that really what this begs is the next question, which we could probably touch on every time we make this particular video, which will probably happen the same time next year, is at what point does it get too far or too much or whatever?
Right.
So
I'll tell you when we get there. Yeah. I haven't seen it yet.
No, I mean, so I see this, or I closely follow this in like some other industries, and whether it's in the video game end with like things like graphics cards and consoles, or if you look at Magic, like the steady increase in premium product, like what a premium Magic set sells for, and it's like wild. Like you used to just have like a box of Magic would be like a booster box would be like $100 and something dollars.
Right. Yeah.
And now you have premium boxes that sell for $300, $400, $500 for a box of random packs.
Yeah.
You know, but they sell out. And
Yeah.
you know, in healthy numbers, like obviously there's the argument like, well, if they make a few and they sold out. So
ultimately, I think with decisions like that, I don't know if you agree or not, but ultimately decisions like that, I feel like you're always trading customers. You're kind of narrowing your pool down a little bit to make more money off of the people that have the ability to spend more.
that's right.
But you're always going to lose some people on the fringes there that just
You're not really gaining. You're just kind of like adjusting.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like,
And I think for some companies, it's a decision that's worth making. And this sounds horrible, but you know, to make less stuff and make the same amount of money is a real decision.
yeah.
It's a real decision a business would make, right?
is, yeah.
We can make less stuff and make the same amount of money. That sounds great. Let's do that, right? I know, and in the card world, it literally is that. They're printing less boxes. The boxes are smaller, but they're more premium, and they take up less space on a pallet, so the shipping costs go down. A lot of it makes sense when you think about it, but at the end of the day, you're actually becoming, your business viability becomes a little more unstable, because ultimately the strength of a business is in how many customers you have, not in how much money you make, I think, at the end of the day, for how strong you are. We always looked at that back in the day with Games Workshop as like, you wanted to have like a really healthy number of people buying per week.
Yeah.
And anytime that number would dip, even if your average sale went up, you were like, whoa, I'm relying on half the people to make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
What if like I lose 3 of them? You know, all of a sudden that's a huge swing, right?
It's like you've got this flat graph that's actually trending lower, and rather than, you know, or the other way. So
the question I'll pose
new recruits
to you guys, but also to Jay here is, do you think this actually matters? Do you think people actually stop buying because of these increases?
Yeah. That's hard to say, because we've spent so much time in stores, whether it's ours or Games Workshop. So you've always had, I'm so desensitized to having for years and decades. This doesn't matter if it's now or early 2000s, mid 2000s, or now. You always have chunks of people that come in and are just already like, I'm out of the hobby. It's too expensive, or I don't like decisions they made, or they changed my army and I hate them now, and whatever. So, you know, the equivalent today is people coming in and being like, oh, I 3D print everything, or whatever. So it's hard to really filter out what the real raw numbers are.
Of course.
I guess the only thing that it may be true, and that's hard, it's tough because we don't work in Games Workshops anymore, is like, how is the, you know, recruiting going? And that's hard to pin down, because like you have, you know, again, Games Workshop would point to being like, well, we sold so many Leviathans, or we sold so many Indominus boxes. Those in theory are starter boxes.
But they're not, though.
But they're
just not.
They're just great bundles.
Yeah.
I think that might be the real truth. It's like,
they're not starter sets anymore. They're just like little Kickstarters for the edition.
They're almost. Kickstarters for the edition. So
I think like this gives the people that wanted the ammo to like say I'm leaving when they're probably already upset or leaving.
Oh, sure.
Like I think like these moments give people that kind of like vindication or whatever to do that if they're already kind of on their way out, or you know. But one of the things I'll say that I never see is I never see a mad rush to pick stuff up before the end of the month with the cheaper prices.
Not really.
Which kind of indicates to me like the vast majority of people don't really care about it.
No. I mean, I know personally, it's always like, I know it creeps up over the years, but then I don't know. I just kind of am like, it was. I always give you this thing is in my head. Long time I figured out when I was like, if I'm going to collect and build and paint an army, it's going to cost X, and that has kind of remained constant.
More or less, yeah.
But, you know, so 10 years ago, you know, my Warhammer Fantasy Battle Empire army was like $1,100. And that's like 3,000 points with everything. Yeah. And today it's kind of the same for the equivalent army, maybe less, maybe more. Like it's around
Yeah.
I mean, that Empire Army was like, I had Forge World and Trunk. It was like extra, but did my city's army cost that? Probably. It was probably not. It's probably 2/3 or something. So like the
cheaper.
The buy-in to build and paint my tournament army was not really that different. So I kind of just don't really care what the price per box is as much as like what's the overall
total cost of doing the hobby?
Right?
Yeah.
So and that's kind of remained.
And I think for us, like I've been in it for so long and seen so many of these things. Like my budget per month to spend doesn't really change.
No.
And if I'm getting like 3% less a year of stuff, ultimately it's such a negligible amount. I don't really notice, I guess, like
you don't finish it all anyways.
And that's the other thing, right? Like I'm yet to meet the person who has 100% completion rate on maybe our buddy John, but he's kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
Outside of him, I'm yet to meet the person that kind of has 100% completion rate on their models, right? So I think we could all probably do better of, just being smart about what we buy and enjoying what we buy. I think that's the big thing,
Yeah.
That's what we promote here, at least. Like, just try to enjoy what you have, what you get,
But, I don't know. It's such a nebulous question. Like, is it booming or not? And I think the other thing, I'll kind of another point I'll make is like it's hard to also measure just like because again back in the day we was like you could very well measure like based on what your 40K wall was doing, etc. But like the net is so wide now that people are buying some Heresy, people are buying some Kill Team, people are buying some whatever. So it's not all the money's not funneled in the one or two main games now. It's kind of spread around. So I don't know. I mean, we'll get their financial report soon for the end of the year for last year, or it's half of last year and half of this year. And I'm sure it'll be like most years recently, where we'll see tons of strength in. I could probably make it up right now, and it's probably this. It's probably, hey, our IP-based programs did really well, where we sell the rights to IP for people to make
branding department, all that stuff,
to make video games and etc. I'm sure on the strength of games like the Total War games and Dark Tide and their mobile games or whatever. And then they'll probably have a point about how I don't know, the retail chain's doing fine and they're maybe opening new stores and that they're spending a lot of money on warehousing and renos and adding this in capacity and whatever.
Yep.
And that's probably, and then at the end of the day, there's like hundreds of pages to distill down to the thing that, we're going to pay out these dividends and the company grew a tiny bit or something. Like, I don't know. It's very dry, but that's what it is. Like, it's like with all these things they do, people think that they're this like monstrous thing. If you read their actual financial report, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's not this.
It's pretty tame.
It's pretty tame. Like,
and they're pretty like, whether you agree with like, paying dividends out to private shareholders thing. That's a whole different like discussion, whatever. But at the end of the day, like they're a pretty responsible company usually when it comes to maintaining, like reinvesting into their business, and you can look back decades into that, and they've always been very responsible about like knowing when to reinvest into things, and maybe that's a whole different topic.
I mean, I could be wrong. I don't remember. I don't think their CEO is like making private jet money or whatever.
No. A lot of the people that end up running the company or whatever, their money, their like fortune. It's not even a fortune really when you talk about what they're doing. Yeah. Their money's made in the share prices going up over the years, and the shares they get.
Yeah,
that's really what it is, right? So I think like something about like one of the CFOs just cashed out her shares after 25 years.
Right. Yeah.
Made quite a nice penny or whatever. But I mean, she also was with the company for 25 years. So,
yeah.
Anyways, what do you guys think? How do you feel when this time of year comes up? Do you feel a certain like
you buy a 3D printer?
Malaise? Did you immediately buy a cubic 3D 8K or whatever?
Yeah.
Do you feel like the malaise? Do you feel indifferent? Do you get like upset, or do you kind of understand what's going on? Put it in the comments. We try to read them, and if there's enough ones, maybe we'll do a follow-up video.
Yeah,
those ones are fun.
Maybe it'll be a rage comment video.
Rage video. No, maybe. Oh. If you like these kind of videos, check them out. They come out 2 to 3 times a week, and we'd really appreciate it if you also liked and subscribed and support us on Patreon. Thanks so much. Until next time, take care, guys.
Thanks.